Portland's international man of mystery, Shaedon Sharpe. The last time we saw Shaedon Sharpe play competitively, he looked fantastic. He nailed his outside shots, he scored at will, and he grabbed a startling amount of rebounds for a then 6'5" guard. He looked every bit worthy of his meteoric ascent from obscurity. He was projected to be the #1 American prospect in the 2023 NBA Draft. Then, things got weird. Stick around as we unpack Sharpe's unconventional path to the NBA and take a look at what he could bring to the Portland Trailblazers this year and for years to come. Promising beginnings. Sharpe grew up in London, Ontario. It wasn't easy for him to get widespread attention from scouts and the media playing in a moderately sized city in Canada. But there was no denying his talent. Once scouts got eyes on him, he started rising through the ranks. After leading his hometown high school to success in Ontario's AAA League, he transferred to greater visibility at Sunrise Christian Academy in Bel Air, Kansas, for his sophomore year. It was his junior year, when he transferred to Dream City Christian School in Glendale, Arizona, that his star truly rose. He emerged as the leader of the team, averaging 21 points per game, which you'd expect of a lead guard, and 6 rebounds, which you might not. When he faced off against other high-level prospects on the Nike Elite Youth Basketball League circuit, he didn't just maintain, he elevated his game, raising his scoring to 22 points per game, continuing to pull down almost 6 rebounds, and dishing out almost 3 assists. Perhaps most important to NBA scouts, he showed off a 40-plus vertical in his drives while shooting over 36% from the three-point line. His performance was so impressive, he was ranked as the #1 recruit of his class, his junior class, gap year. Despite rising from obscurity, Sharpe had gone on to a fairly conventional trajectory. Top colleges started recruiting him for when he would leave high school in a year, and NBA scouts penciled him in as one to watch for the 2023 draft. But Sharpe was old for a junior, old enough to declare for college a year early, and fatefully, for early entry into the NBA draft. After fielding offers from many of the top NCAA basketball programs, as well as the NBA G League Ignite, Sharpe decided to enroll in the University of Kentucky, home to the storied Wildcats. What he didn't do was play for the Wildcats. Sharpe participated in college basketball only in practice. This wasn't unusual for a freshman, especially for such a young one who joined the program early. But it was unusual for such a highly touted prospect. Players in that position usually get minutes right away. After all, their coaches don't expect them to be around next year. At first, Kentucky coach John Calipari did expect Sharpe back. Even after it became clear that Sharpe would be eligible for the 2022 NBA Draft, Calipari accepted that he would remain a practice-only player during his time at Kentucky. The last game the Wildcats played with Sharpe in their program was a first-round loss in the NCAA tournament. Sharpe would never shoot a basketball in college competition. The two seemed to have parted on good terms. Sharpe said he used his time at Kentucky to get in the gym and improve his game. In February, Calipari said that in his mind, Sharpe was the #1 pick in the draft. More questions than answers. Calipari has coached 4 #1 picks, so he ought to know. But Sharpe didn't join their number. Some scouts were nervous about the prospect of even selecting him in the top 10. For one, no one seemed quite sure why Sharpe hadn't played. Was he just too young? If so, wouldn't he be even more out of his depth facing adult competition? Did he just want to avoid the possibility of injury playing at the amateur level? That would be more understandable, though it would call him into question how much benefit he brought to the program that recruited him. If he was just pushed not to play by his parents and other adults advising him, then how free of that influence would he be as a young pro? Even if his head was in the right place, just how developed were his skills? Scouts expressed concern about the small sample of his elite level play, about the lack of competition at the college or G League level. Those concerns had some mock drafts placing him as low as the late teens, but his upside proved too great to ignore. While he didn't ever seriously threaten to crack the top 3 in this year's draft, he went 7th and joined the Portland Trailblazers. The NBA 2K23 Summer League 2022 would have been our first chance to see what Sharpe could do in adult competition. Sadly, he injured his shoulder in his debut game against the Pistons. Eliminated this time for a very obvious reason, he once again ended up watching from the sidelines as his team put on a run that eventually led them to become Summer League champions. All upside. The good news is that Sharpe didn't suffer a long-term injury. He might have missed Summer League, but he's expected to be fully recovered for training. We should see him in action for the first time in far too long when Portland's preseason action begins on October 3rd. That brings us to another mystery. What role will Sharpe play for Portland this year? He may be one of the rawest prospects drafted into the NBA since the league's rules were changed to prevent players from coming straight out of high school. That's effectively what he's done, despite his strange term at Kentucky. Before the one-and-done rule was instituted, we saw some of the league's greatest stars, like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Dwight Howard, come straight from high school. The NBA changed the rule because we also saw notorious busts like Michael Olowokandi and Kwame Brown go first overall. The risks were seen as too great when the draft was supposed to help struggling teams recover. The NBA has recently talked about rescinding the one-and-done rule and allowing high school players to declare for the draft. The thinking goes that basketball scouting starts at a younger age now, that teams are better informed, that college programs would benefit from more continuity, that young stars shouldn't have to risk career-ending injuries before they have a chance to start their careers. Whether that rule changes or not, one thing that it won't is that players drafted young, without experience in higher-level competition, are usually going to be long-term prospects. James was great right out of the gate, but even the likes of Bryant and Howard took more time to shine as brightly as they eventually did. Betting on the upside of a player like Sharpe is an acceptable risk for a team that's looking to build for the long term. The Trailblazers, on the other hand, are a team that seems to want to win now. They've made savvy moves to put an improved, at least on paper, roster around the returning Damian Lillard. They hope to convince him they can win while he's in these last years of his prime. Could Sharpe start? We won't know what the Blazers lineup looks like until they take the court. We might not know for a long time, depending on how long it takes Coach Chauncey Billups to settle on his rotations. But if Portland's hopes for Sharpe pan out, he could feature prominently. Sharpe has traditionally played as a big guard. Portland doesn't have room in the starting lineup for another guard. Anthony Simons had a breakout season last year and is a lock to start as Lillard's backcourt partner. The Blazers also signed recent NBA champion Gary Payton II. Things get more interesting for Sharpe if Billups decides to go small. At 6'6", with an exceptional wingspan and a history of being both an explosive scorer and a hard-nosed defender, Sharpe could slide over to the 3. He's listed as taller than likely starter Nasir Little. The two might compete for small forward minutes as the season progresses. On the other hand, Sharpe is more likely to come in as a spark plug off the bench. He could fill in at the 2 or 3 as gaps in the rosters allow. In especially small lineups where one of Jeremy Grant sits or slides over to the 5, Sharpe might even be able to chip in as a small ball 4. Whatever role he plays for Portland, it will be our first chance to see Sharpe in competition in a year. Are you looking forward to his debut? What do you think of his unconventional path to the NBA? Let us know in the comments below. While you're there, be sure to click that like button, click that subscribe button, hit that bell, and come back for more rookie looks at all the basketball info you can handle.